Right, so now we're moving on to the second part of our class for this evening. And what I want to do now for the rest of the class is I want to do some practices with you of actually sitting and attuning both to yourself, to the power, but also then attuning to the spirit incarnate. So if you would please find a practice partner for the next part of this exercise. You can either listen to me talking to it first and then find a partner, or if you've got somebody sitting with you, you can do it as you go. So what I would like to do is, first, we're going to just talk about, for a moment, preparing to work with another person. So a couple of things is, what we want to be able to do is move into the power. Now, that said, you don't have to spend 15 minutes every time you do a contact moving into the power. It will get to a point that the more you sit with the power and the more you get used to the power, you'll be able to move into it in seconds. You'll be able to just decide, I'm ready to work, just turn your attention to the power, and there you're in it. So this is not going to go on for eternally. So, but I would like you to, for the moment, to sort of take a minute to get yourself settled, to make sure you're building some of that power. And as I say, it'll get faster and faster as you go. So what I want you to do in this practice is invite somebody to sit with you, right? You're going to move into the power, into the altered state, which is where all of this work happens, right? When you're within the altered state, and you've made that connection to the one, I want you to then invite your partner to move into that space with you, so that you and your partner can blend within that space, right? Now, I want you to set an intention before you start. And the intention is that you are going to move into, you can word this whatever way works best for you. But basically, I'm here, I'm going to move into the power of the spirit, into union with the oneness of all things. I invite my partner, if you know their name, I invite them into this space with me. I ask that information be shared with me that I can share with them for their highest good and well-being. Whatever words you're comfortable saying. But essentially that's what you're doing. You're setting that intention that information be received by you, that you can reflect them back to them to be helpful for them, right? Moving into the power, building the power, holding them within the space with you. Now, I'm going to say, you may start feeling subtle differences within the power here. You know, you may start feeling emotionally, you might start feeling an emotion, you may start seeing something, you may get a craving for some snack. This happens all the time. You know, and what's happening is you're picking up what's going on within the energy field of your partner there. And this is how we make these connections to then, as we deepen that, as we go along over the next few weeks, to be able to get a sense of what's going on with them. Now, we are not coming at this like a bunch of journalists with 20 questions. I want to know this, and this. We're not dealing with questions for right now. I just want you to get comfortable being in the presence and being blended with another person and surrendering to the power to let whatever wants to arise and touch your awareness to do that, all right? Now, some people get very uncomfortable with that because they would, oh, there's no structure. I don't know. I need a structure. I can't work with just some sort of feel like I'm free floating there in the ether. There was method to my madness in this. Part of it is that sort of floating, free floating, just to receive without sort of setting out, here's 5 questions that I want you to answer, 20 questions I want to answer, is not a comfortable space for the ego, right? The ego always wants to be doing something, which becomes a hazard when we come to mediumship, because it's always meddling, you know, asking the spirit person 20 questions, sort of letting them say what they want to say. So this is a beautiful exercise for surrendering the ego to the power, to allowing whatever the incarnate spirit and the discarnate spirit of the power itself, you know, and the incarnate spirit of your partner, whatever in its wisdom wants to arise, you're allowing that to arise and you're surrendering to that to receive and reflect, right? So your ego might not like it, but that's okay. This is a really, really good practice if you start noticing anything coming up for you, because what can come up is, oh, doubt, I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe this is not from them at all, maybe it's just me making it up, or what's she talking about? I want to know what their job or their children or their marital status, whatever it is. Or if just general sense of discomfort or self-judgment or self-criticism, or annoyance, anything can come up in this space. Just notice it's coming up, because this gives you an opportunity to then work with what's arising within yourself as you go forward. Because what you can do then is you can reflect on that later, you can meditate on that later, what's coming up. Why, for example, was I uncomfortable? Why was I doubting my ability? Why was I doubting whether I was really in the power, right? You can reflect on that later. Another thing that comes up a lot is that you'll get a sense of something that will feel quite abstract. Psychic information comes quite clearly, and at least initially, it can sound and feel a bit sort of abstract, like not really quite make sense, like the dream state I was talking about earlier. But here, we're connected telepathically to somebody else, so we're picking up what is going to make sense, for them and their life. So you might feel like a little bit like a fish out of water, I'd say, fish out of water initially. But just trust yourself, right? I can't say, oh, just trust will get built over time, but you need to start somewhere with it, all right? So if, for example, all you see is like, oh, I see the color orange, I have no idea what it means. I'm not going to say that, I'll sound stupid, right? People do this all the time. Just say it. It's important to just say it for a number of reasons. One is, it is not for your analytical mind to start analyzing why clairvoyantly you're seeing orange. Right? We don't want them. The mind is a sense-making machine. It's always going to be in there trying to make sense of stuff. And it's always going to be, the ego is always going to be in there trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you in your comfort zone. It's never going to want to see you go off there and sort of talk about stuff you've no idea what you're talking about, or risk looking foolish. The ego doesn't like this, but it becomes very important to be able to give the ego something to do so that you can actually focus on just allowing stuff to arise and speak it. So say it, all right? You get something where it's, oh, I'm just seeing the color orange, or I've just seen an acorn, I have no idea what this is about. The mind does not need to know. All of this work is dark to the mind and radiant to the heart. So trust your incarnate spirit, trust your heart, right? Second of all, until you say what you see, feel, hear, or sense, nothing, if you hold it in, you're going to clog the whole contact. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to just say it. I'm feeling orange. I'm seeing orange. Say you see the color orange. Feel into it. How does that make you feel? Because whatever you're feeling in that place is going to be something that makes sense to your partner, not necessarily to you, right? So you may feel orange and you may feel, I feel this burst of energy with this orange. It could be because they're feeling very energetic, or because they need a burst of energy, right? So feel into it, but speak. Because as soon as you speak, it gets the flow, gets you into the flow, gets a flow going, and it makes space for something else to arise, to come, right? Don't worry about getting it wrong. Just say it. You have to start somewhere and you need to get the flow going, all right? And who cares if it doesn't make sense? Who cares if it's wrong? Who cares if the person doesn't quite understand it? This is a learning environment. If you learn nothing else from this lesson, it is to be present and to be willing to move yourself out of your comfort zone. And if that's what you get from this, and you don't get the color of their house, I really don't care about that at this point. At this point, I'm much more interested in you getting comfortable, moving beyond the restrictions of the ego, moving into the power, being able to blend, and being willing to voice what's arising. All right? So will you do that?